Okay, so there's been a request that I make a specific video for the final checklist for our class, and I'm happy to do that. The most of the information has been mentioned in um, a lot of it through email, but in the optional meetings, there's been discussion of it. So it is kind of parsed across a number of different places, and so I think it is a good idea to have it all in one particular area. I'll try to keep this to about 10 minutes. I don't think that it should take much longer than that. And I will also go ahead and share my screen with you so that you can see this just as much as I'm seeing this, which will be your final project checklist. So here we have it. So um, the first thing I want to stress to you is that you do not have to write a final paper for this course, not in the traditional sense that there's an 8 to 10 page response or sorry, research paper that we would normally have had, that if you look back on the original syllabus, you'll see that that would have been due. And also, we're not turning in a portfolio the way that it was originally described within the original semester. We are now, or excuse me, original syllabus. We are now operating on a slightly different time frame using different end projects. So this document right here that's on my screen. This is it. Once you have done all of these things, and you can check all of these off, then you will be fine. And that will be, at least, at the very least, you'll have everything turned in. So let's look at a few of these things here. So the pre-pandemic part. This is the second major written assignment, or the book review. There's videos on the book review. We've talked about that. There may not actually be a video on this one. The main things to think about if you have yet to turn this in is that it is a major assignment, so it's worth the value that it was before the beginning of the semester. It can be on any book of your choosing, including one of the books from the class. So in a normal semester, we would have gone to the library, the Spartan Republic, and the Hub City Bookshop, but of course that's not available to us. So you can review anything. Remember that it's still a formal class, so you want to think about the form of the book. That doesn't necessarily have to be meter and rhyme. It can be, if you read the Robert Hass essay, some notes on form, that's available on Moodle. He explains some of the different kinds of approaches you can take to think about form, and use that with quotes in a slightly different way than the Robert Pinsky version, where he's very much talking about sound and how sound operates in a formal capacity. So I want that by May 11th, which puts that at about a week, right? A week from the day, the beginning of finals. That gives me enough time to grade it and return it to you moving forward. No, so post-pandemic, it's also the daily grades. There are 3 different ones. The final one will be the outline, and I will talk about that in a different video, but it's relatively simple. It's an outline for a paper. And as long as you have those, then you're fine. And it doesn't have to be a perfect outline, but basically, intro, what would be your thesis, body paragraph, what would be the source you would use, what's the poem you'd be quoting from, as if you could take all of this stuff and really write a decent paper out of it. So these 4 components, not counting this, so your response journal, right? That's a part of the grade. That's basically daily grades for the rest of the semester. This is your second major written assignment, and this is the final project, which will be taking the place of the final portfolio and final paper. So all of which no later than May 13th, and that's basically just so that I can have time to turn this back and grade it. If it comes in May 13th, which of course you're welcome to have that one. I'm pretty much going to read it, grade it, send it back to you with a grade, and then you can follow up with comments if that's something that you would like to have. But the amount of papers I have coming in all 4 of my classes, and just the way this semester has gone, the later I get your assignments, the less commentary I can put upon them. So that's that. So each of these have their own assignment sheets that are all available, not counting the close reading and the abstract. So these 2 things, the first 2 do. Annotated bibliography, that's 9 citations, 9 annotations, 1 text from class, and it's attendant information, help you write a research paper. Remember using the UPenn call for papers. So make sure you check that out. That's definitely in one of the optional Zoom meetings where I show all of that and walk that through there. So that's an annotated bibliography. That's pretty much classic English major stuff. You're trying to find solid research, so please make sure that you read over that assignment sheet and that you have some sense of the direction that you're trying to take. And that when I can read that, when I can see that you picked valid sources, they're verifiable, and they're used well and intelligently for a theoretical paper that you're not writing right now, or paper that's in theory. A topic proposal, again, there's a whole thing about that. There's a sheet for that one that you can look at. It's just a 2-page introduction. And it kind of gives us our outlined approach, so you can sort of think about how this would look, and it should coincide with the research presented in the annotated bib as the film analyzing the close reading. Oh, I'm sorry, that should say poem. I'll check that. That's my fault. I'm not entirely sure why that says film. My apologies. That should say poem. So I will double check that and make sure that I fix that on the actual assignment sheet. Um, so topic proposal introduces us to everything that you're trying to cover inside of a paper. You would give it to your professor early on in the semester, earlier than the research paper, and it would give a sense of what's your direction, what's your approach, what are you trying to think about, what kind of sources you're going to be using. And it goes over this in the document that's up on Moodle, basically so that I could read this in a normal semester and say, yeah, I like this approach, but let's follow up here and here, right? I like that you're going to use this poem, but what about these two poems? And it gives me a way to interact with you. Obviously, we're not going to have that this time, but I want you to at least try in that regard with the topic proposal. Now, close reading. This is just a classic close reading, the same thing that you do in every English class, but you'll have the formal components. Now, it should have some mention of the call for paper that you chose, as well as the work on side of the annotated bib and the topic proposal. The idea is that like this would be an example of a poem that you could talk about inside of a paper that's dealing with your topic. So you want to pick a smart section of a smart poem that coincides with an idea. And I'll provide a video with that as well based on Merrill and the idea of hope. So that's a close reading. It's just 1,000 words. It's really pretty short. So you're not going to try to cover a bunch. Keep that relatively tight, you know, really dive in, thinking about meter, thinking about rhyme, thinking about how, thinking about looking at that Penske text, right? How he close reads in those areas that I pointed out throughout the semester when we were still meeting. And then an abstract. It's basically just a paragraph, right? Take one of these from the outline, from the annotated bib, from the close reading, and just write me a really solid paragraph. That's what I'm looking for as you go forward with all of this one. So they're all going to go into one document. That's fine. They can all go into your Google Doc that you've set up, or you can email them out as, you know, as individual documents if you really wanted to. It doesn't matter. You can roll them in when they get in. You can turn them all in at once. It's up to you. So here's the notes that I have for this one. This is kind of talking about these sort of things here. The first one's just saying that if you don't get late penalties if you turn them in late, but also you don't get my help. So that just means that, you know, if you accidentally commit plagiarism, I mean, I don't think this is the semester that I'm going straight to the honor council, but it is something to think about. You need to be careful with that. And if you don't give that to me, that would potentially hurt your grade. So I'm just trying to say, get this to me as fast as you can. And then as number two is saying the same thing about grading, which is that I won't put a lot of comments on them the later that they come. You'll get a grade. And if you want to hear why you got that grade, you can email me and I will be I'll be happy to explain that to you. I will be forgiving. I will be favorable. In other words, if you're missing something continuously that I feel like I could have caught during a semester, then I'm not going to count that against you. But if it's still a paper that looks, you know, lazily written, poorly done, then I mean, don't expect to get a high grade on it. That would be my main suggestion with that one. Number four is saying basically if you can't do some of these things because you have some sort of issue, and that could be a number of different things. It's access to Wi-Fi, if you're sharing computers with family members who are also studying or starting learning from home right now, just let me know. Or if you're uncomfortable talking to me, you can talk to Boyce Lawton, and he is able to, he can work with you and he can help me understand what I can do to help. You just need to make sure you contact us sooner rather than later. And everything can come in on a rolling basis. So you don't have to do everything all at once. You can turn the first thing in today and then move it on down the weeks to come. But that's pretty much it. So the main things to take away with this is that you have roughly before the end of the semester, the book review, your response journal, annotated bib, topic proposal, close reading, abstract, right? 6 things you have to get me. A number of you have already turned in the response journals. That's great. And then these have been coming in with draft forms pretty continuously. Next, I'll be doing a video on a close reading of a formal poem for its formal elements, at least just trying to give a kind of lecture with that one. And I hope that that will clarify anything that you have for that. So if you've watched this one and you still have questions, you're still unsure about what I'm looking for or what you're trying to do with all of this one or how to do it well, don't hesitate to email me and request a follow-up video or a Zoom meeting. I'll be happy to do that one. Other than that, I hope you're doing well, staying healthy and staying safe. So contact me if I can help you. Thank you very much.